All right, everyone, ready to dive in. Today we're tackling how to make your LinkedIn posts stand out, in a feed that's moving at what feels like a million miles an hour.
It's true. It's like everyone's trying to cut through the noise.
Right. And no one's got time to read a novel when they're scrolling through LinkedIn.
Especially these days, everyone's busy.
Exactly. And senior technical writer Curt Robbins, he really hit the nail on the head in his article, The Importance of Terse Posts. You seen that one?
I have. Yeah, it's a good one.
He talks about how he sees all these super long posts, and it's not that the content's bad.
Right. Often it's the opposite.
Yeah. People just scroll right past them.
Totally. And I think there's almost like a subconscious link we make between length and value, especially in a professional setting.
Oh, 100%.
We're conditioned to think longer reports, more detailed presentations, but on social media, that just doesn't fly.
It's so true. Robbins actually says it's kind of ironic that important messages get buried in these walls of text.
Yeah, it defeats the purpose.
He says, and I quote, "The average social media feed moves at the speed of a SpaceX rocket leaving the atmosphere."
He's not wrong.
So how do we break free from this cycle of TLDR, especially on LinkedIn?
Well, I think it boils down to respecting your audience's time.
Makes sense.
Think about the people you're connected with on LinkedIn. They're busy professionals. They've got demanding jobs, maybe families, side projects.
For sure, they're juggling a lot.
They don't have time to decode a dissertation every time they open the app.
You are preaching to the choir. I know for me, if I see this massive block of text, even if it's a topic I'm interested in, I'm like, nope, I'm out.
And that's the challenge, right?
It is.
You could have the most amazing insight to share, but if it's buried in a wall of text, it's lost.
So how do we avoid that? What does Robbins suggest?
Well, he has this great idea. He's a huge proponent of LinkedIn's articles feature.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
He says, think of it this way. Articles are there for when you need more than a few sentences to get your point across.
Which makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes you need a little more space to fully flesh out an idea.
Precisely.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes I forget that LinkedIn even has that articles feature.
Right. It's easy to forget about.
It's not just for those quick little status updates.
Exactly. Articles give you that breathing room.
Okay, I like that.
You can provide context. You can really elaborate on your ideas.
You can make it look nice too, right? Like
Yeah.
with headings and bullet points.
That good stuff, yeah. And they have a much longer lifespan than a regular post,
Oh, for sure.
Because, let's face it, a post, that can get buried in the feed after a few hours.
Totally. It's like gone in a flash.
Right. An article is more likely to stick around.
It's true. It's like the difference between a tweet and a blog post almost.
100%, yeah.
And speaking of, Robbins actually gives this great pro tip.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's so simple, but it's genius. He says to pay attention to your posts and see which ones are getting the most engagement.
Likes, comments, shares.
Exactly. And he says those are your clues. That's what people want more of.
I love that.
Take those topics and turn them into full-blown articles.
It's like letting your audience tell you what they want to read.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say you don't have time to write a whole article.
Sure.
Robbins has another really great tactic for making your posts more impactful.
Let's hear it.
He calls it the fat-cutting editing pass.
The fat-cutting editing pass. Okay, this sounds intriguing.
Right. It does sound kind of intense. So basically, once you've written your post, you've done your grammar, you've done your spell check, now it's time to get ruthless.
Okay, I'm ready to get ruthless.
And go back through it and eliminate any word or phrase that's not absolutely essential.
So just really be brutal with the delete button.
Exactly. Even if it means sacrificing some of your precious words.
It's hard to let go, but sometimes you have to.
And Robbins even says this, I'm going to quote him here, "You will shock yourself by the words, sentences, and sometimes even paragraphs that can be removed from your communications. And the end result is a much more powerful piece of writing."
I love that. So it's about choosing your words really strategically.
Yes, making every single one count.
Instead of just trying to cram in as much information as possible.
Right. It's about quality over quantity, for sure. And you know what? This idea of being terse, this isn't just for LinkedIn.
No, absolutely not. Tell me more about that.
I feel like this applies to so many areas of our lives,
Like where?
like emails, reports, even just having everyday conversations.
It's true. It's about being respectful of people's time, no matter what you're doing.
100%. But I think the question is, how do you find that sweet spot?
What do you mean?
Like, being concise is great, but you still need to provide enough context, enough details. How much is too much? Where's that line?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
That is the million-dollar question. And, I don't think there's one right answer. It depends, right?
Yeah, I was going to say it depends on the audience.
Exactly. Who you're talking to, the platform you're on, what you're writing about, of course.
So how do you figure it out?
Yeah.
Because it feels kind of subjective, like there's no formula.
It is to an extent, but I think you sort of develop a feel for it over time, with practice, but also just pay attention to how people respond to your writing.
That's a good point. So it's almost like you have to kind of experiment and see what sticks.
Exactly. And, ask yourself, are people engaged with what I'm putting out there? Are they asking questions? Or are their eyes just glazing over?
Oh, I've been there. The glazed over eyes. It's the worst.
The worst, but yeah, those are your clues, right? So be mindful, experiment. Don't be afraid to ask for feedback.
Learn as you go, for sure.
Yeah.
This has been such a great conversation. I feel like we've covered so much ground today.
Me too.
I mean, we started out talking about making your LinkedIn posts stand out, but it really feels so much bigger than that now.
Oh, absolutely. It is bigger than LinkedIn.
This idea of being terse, it's really about respecting people's time, no matter what you're doing.
It's a communication superpower, and it's something that anyone can develop and refine.
Totally. So to everyone listening, next time you're about to hit that post button or even send an email, take a beat. Just ask yourself, have I been as clear and concise as possible? You might be surprised by the difference it makes.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And on that note, a huge thank you to Curt Robbins for that fantastic article that really got us thinking today. If you enjoyed this conversation, we highly recommend checking out more of his work.
He's got some really great insights on clear and effective communication.
He does. And from both of us, thank you so much for joining us for another deep dive.
Until next time, happy posting.
And remember, sometimes less really is more.